me?
I didn't want to do anything.
Hello. I guess it works.
Very excited.
Oh, we've got a viewer. Someone named Alan. Okay, cool. So can I minimize that now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Ooh, do you do introductions, Mr. Group Leader guy?
I've got all this stuff ready. Hold on. Hide. Hide. This is annoying. Why does this keep showing up there? Okay, whatever. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Alex. This is JSLou. This is Louisville's JavaScript group and meetup and whatever you want to call it. And what is JSLou? So our goals are to build a local community around JavaScript and learn together, push each other forward, create web apps as a group, and showcase. That kind of didn't make sense there. We want to explore new technologies and frameworks and teach others and spread knowledge. So basically, JSLou has been around for about a year now, and a lot of you have been here since the beginning. A couple people here, and we haven't done a night where we just start with like really basic stuff before. We kind of got into advanced stuff really quickly from the beginning, and a lot of people are interested in cool new stuff like Node.js or Meteor or a lot of the frameworks that are out there and a lot of the cool stuff that people are doing with JavaScript on the server, or that the more advanced stuff. Some of us are making games with JavaScript or making full giant web apps with JavaScript as like startup companies and stuff like that. And there are still some people out there that have never even written a line of JavaScript, or they're a web developer or somebody who just wants to know how to get into it. And so I thought it would be a cool night to try to do a beginning intro to JavaScript. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some really simple ways that you can get started coding right from your browser. So you don't have to have any tools installed on your computer. All you have to have is Chrome or Firefox, and you can get started. You can go along with me. You can help steer the course of the lesson any way you want, and I'm hoping that I get some shout-outs from people who are more experienced than me to help me if I'm making a mistake or if I'm teaching something in a way that would be detrimental to new beginners. So hopefully some of you can help me out with that, because about a year ago I was a complete beginner with JavaScript, and I still would consider myself like a novice, I guess. I'm doing a lot of JavaScript at work, and I have in my last 2 jobs, and I'm starting to get more and more into Node and doing some JavaScript server-side stuff, which is really fun. But most of the JavaScript that people will be using is client-side, which just runs in the browser, and it's a really cool way to add interaction to your websites. And it's pretty much, I mean, JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Any browser in the world that you're going to encounter can run these. And so if you can build most of your website and most of your web app with those 3 technologies, you don't really have to worry about too much as far as compatibility, and it's really available anywhere. Mobile phones, everything runs JavaScript, and so it's really become the programming language to use if you want to have your app run everywhere. And so what we usually start off with is introductions, but I'm going to actually go through a couple other things first. So JSLou is split into 2 different nights every month. The first one is the Learn Night. Actually, the first one is the Hack Night, which is the first Wednesday of each month. And this we sometimes work on group projects, but we haven't really taken off with too many of those yet. But it's mostly just for people to work on existing projects that they've already started or to start new ones. And it doesn't have to be specifically JavaScript focused, but and there's going to be a lot of people there that know stuff about JavaScript and are working on projects themselves, and so they're there to be helpful and help. If you have any questions or if you need advice or whatever, it's a great time to get together with other people and work on your stuff there. And that's at 7 p.m. and that's at iHub, which is just a couple blocks over. And so that's a great time to work on stuff and get to know people. And then the Learn Nights, which is like tonight, we usually have a speaker. We're going to have a speaker next month, but this time it didn't work out, so I decided to do this. They're a little more structured. We have introductions. There's talks and lessons and group discussion. It's a better night to come first because if you're just coming into a hack night, there's going to be a lot of people working on their laptops, and you're not going to really know who's who and who you're supposed to talk to or whatever. And it's a great time to get help and ask questions. So also, both nights are great to ask questions, but it's a little bit more newcomer friendly. And so, like I said, the first Thursday of every month is actually the first Wednesday of every month. I got to fix that. This is an old slide. But the first Wednesday of every month is the hack night. The third Wednesday of every month is the learn night. And then if you'd like to be a presenter, I'm always taking people's. I'm always accepting presenters. So if you have anything that you'd like to talk about, and it's a great way to force yourself to learn something. If you have something that you'd really like to learn and you've got less than a month to do it because you have to give a presentation on it, that's kind of a nice way to force yourself into getting your act together on that, and then come and tell us about what your experience was. And you don't have to be advanced, or you don't have to know everything about the subject. And a lot of times it's just an introduction to a technology or a framework or something that you've just started learning about. And those are really cool. And so this is all the contact information. So let's go back. Let's do introductions. So I'm Alex Wazeska. I've been doing games with HTML5 and JavaScript for about maybe like 9 months now. I work at Cafe Press, which is kind of a new job for me. I haven't been there for too long. And I mostly do front-end web design, development kind of stuff, and I use a little bit of PHP, mostly JavaScript and HTML and CSS. And I'm really interested in learning more about Node and doing more game stuff. So I'll tell you more about my game stuff if you're interested later. So who wants to go next? You want to go next?
I'm Ryan. I've been coming to JSLou since I think close to the beginning.
Yeah.
Alex has always put on a really good show. No, I feel like I would describe this best as an informal education.
Mm-hmm.
You learn a lot. I've come into here knowing that I didn't know everything about JavaScript, and I think no matter what stage you're at, that's probably going to be the case. There's a Twitter feed that keeps coming into my Twitter. I don't know where it comes from, but it talks about just all the idiosyncrasies and different things that JavaScript can do. So it's a good place to come, and so I'm interested to keep going.
Cool.
I'm Bill Burke. I'm the founder of a local startup called Calculating What We're Doing, a web application for scientists and engineers to do statistical analysis, collaboration, publishing. Basically, it's all written in JavaScript, server side, client side, 100% JavaScript. And I got interested in JavaScript probably 3 years ago, and maybe a little bit longer than that, and sort of saw that it feels like the world's moving in that direction. At least from delivering of applications standpoint. Web applications are powerful. I like JavaScript. I like the language, despite everybody talking about how terrible it is. I don't think it's terrible. It's good. But yeah, I think these nights are great.
Hold on, you still don't think it's terrible?
I don't. I love it, actually.
So you don't have to love hate, you have just the love.
I really just have to love. I hate jQuery.
Really? That's funny.
Oh,
that's a different side of that one.
That's a rare one.
You love jQuery and JavaScript?
I mean, I fucking love hate with JavaScript, but there's a lot of hate there too.
Yeah, there's more love.
Have you seen the what presentation? The what? We should do that at some point, maybe today.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
The what presentation. All right, sorry, I'm Bill.
John Gregory. I first used JavaScript in 2002. Early days, even jQuery, its early days. I got away from it in the last couple of years, come back to it. Last year, I've done a number of projects with AngularJS and Breeze and Bootstrap. And just really starting to get into it. Main interest right now are user experience and UI design and JavaScript all over it. So that's why I'm here.
Well, I'm Brian, and I worked in Vegas for about 4 years, and now I'm working at SIP. Mostly PHP, JavaScript, and CSS, combination of front end and back end stuff. And I just recently realized, doing offline apps was possibility. I don't know how I missed out on that for the past couple of years, but I only realized that, like, wow, this is really cool. So I started getting into IndexedDB, and then I got this email, so I was like, oh, I'll come check this out.
I'm Rex. I do web development with the Country 60 or marketing advertising agency. I do mostly PHP, like website development. Let's see, like outside of work, I like to use JavaScript to work on games.
I'm here at fun. I'm here to learn. Just want to know it.
Cool.
I'm part of Cool.
Awesome.
I'm Laura. I'm also part of Code Louisville, and I'm here to learn as well. I've been working as a web and graphic designer for a couple of years now, so.
Where do you work?
PR store. It's a small marketing agency.
I'm Matt. I'm a front-end web developer for TNP Worldwide. We do advertising and recruiting for corporations. My JavaScript is limited to entirely front-end. I haven't done anything server-side, so I'm excited to learn a little bit of Node tonight.
Yeah, I remember you, man. Okay, I thought that was
I'm Craig. I was working with Code Louisville for a while. The three of us all were did the front end and back end stuff. And then before that, I worked at JSLou as a scientific programmer working with Perl. I got out of that after I learned to hate Perl.
That one I hate that one. That one I hate that one.
Okay.
And found JavaScript and fallen in love with it and learning a lot with it. Looking into learning a lot more SAS, and Node.js especially. Looking to do back end and front end stuff with it. That's where I'm at.
I'm Ben. I also got into JavaScript about a year and a half ago, and I love JavaScript and jQuery. Okay, nothing but yeah, I got into web development, so I have something to apply to JavaScript too. I was like, wow, I know all these functions, but I don't really know what to do with them. And now I'm just probably more excited about JavaScript than ever with Node and Angular being so fun. So I'm going to keep learning, and I don't think you can know enough JavaScript.
I'm John Littleman. I've been learning web development for the past 6 months or so, really kind of heading down the PHP hole, but I want to, have a broad knowledge of what's going on. And I've kind of scratched the surface in jQuery and JavaScript. Just want to scratch the surface more, some understanding of, so if I want to pick it up or need to pick it up or just follow up with it, I can have an easier and more enjoyable time doing it.
My name's Alan Blunt. I've been a web developer forever. I have
full-time job and occasionally pick up side gigs and have a wife and 2 kids. So this is my social outlet. This is all I get. I also am always going to err on the side of trying to get things accomplished quickly, as opposed to go into detail of doing things. But I think Alex and I discussed the presentation. He's still going to start all of you new people off on the right foot with some core JavaScript stuff, so that you can understand what it is that frameworks like jQuery and whatever else are doing for you. So it should be a good start for all the new people tonight.
Yeah, and I kind of want to let you all steer what I'm doing, so that's why I didn't prepare too much. And so,
You
what's
want
up?
to consider breaking into 2 groups or keeping this all together?
What would you?
I don't know.
What kind of feeling are you getting?
Downstairs, so I guess if the people
Sorry.
don't want to sit for an introductory class, we can go downstairs and talk about stuff.
It seemed like a couple of people were interested in Node stuff, and I'm not going to really go over any of that tonight.
Yeah.
Other
Actually, it's
than-
funny, every meetup that we've done, up to this point, seems like it's been largely focused and not browser.
Yeah.
Okay.
If anybody's interested in that, then you can hang out with Alan down there. I think I'm going to grab some water, sorry. I've been sick the last couple of days, so don't get too close.
Okay. Everybody up there. Why does everybody hate JavaScript? Hey, Alex, I'm going to turn on the live presentation. Is that all right?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. Do you have audio on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So JavaScript is a language that was built in, what, 2 weeks or something like that? Like, it really was. How many? 10 days, I think he said. Brendan's a smart guy.
I mean, yeah. It does things for you, but it is very, very loose and sloppy about doing them, which causes problems sometimes. JavaScript.
Would you say it's tightened up over the years?
Not at all. People have gotten better about using it in ways that don't suck as badly. But JavaScript itself, as a language, is still ridiculous. And this is a presentation that takes a glorious approach at pointing out the ridiculousness. It's still awesome. Oh.
Exactly. Let's talk about Ruby. In Ruby, if you reference an undefined variable, of course it name errors, as you would expect. And if you try to assign B to A with them undefined, of course it name errors, as you would expect. And what happens if you try to assign A to A with A undefined?
Oh.
Correct. Nil. Wat. Let's talk about Ruby. Ruby, unlike some other dynamic languages, does not have bare words, so you cannot just type words in and have strings come out, unless you define a particular method missing that does the right thing. And then if you type bare words, suddenly Ruby supports bare words. And in fact, it will even support bare words with bangs in them. And this is not deserving of WAT. This is actually a result of how awesome Ruby is. But if you ever actually do this, then WAT. Let's talk about JavaScript. Does anyone know in JavaScript what array plus array is? Well, let me ask you this first. What should array plus array be? Empty array, I would also accept type error. That is not what array plus array is. Wrong. Wrong. Array plus array is empty string. Obviously, I think that's obvious to everyone. Now, what would array plus object be? This should obviously be type error because those are completely disparate types. Does anyone know what this is? No. Close. No. Far away. It's object. Right. Nicely done. Now, of course, because this is plus, so you can flip the operands and the same thing comes out. So if we do, what? No, that's just an object. If you do object plus array, you should get exactly the same thing, which, as you can see, you do. And finally, the only one of these that's actually true is, because you add arrays, you get empty string, that doesn't make sense. But an object plus an object is actually not a number, technically. So this one's actually right. And exactly, right? Like, what is even going on in this lab? I don't even understand what person with a brain in their head would think that any of this is a good idea. Okay. Enough making fun of languages that suck. Let's talk about JavaScript. If I say array.new 16, or just array 16, I get an array of 16 things, which it represents as 16 commas, which is obvious. And if I then join those with a string, then I get the string 16 times. This is actually the only line in this entire presentation that's reasonable. Now, if I take that string and then add a 1 to it, it interprets the 1 as, or casts the 1 to a string, and then we get wat1 a bunch of times. Fine. Does anyone know what will happen if I subtract 1 from this? I'm assuming no one does. I'll give you a hint. Does this help? Does anyone know? Yes. Went mad. That's all I got. Thank you, guys.
This guy has some pretty good talks. This one's really good too. Okay, newbie night. So let's see, newbie night. How does this work? So, okay, who has used the developer tools in their browser before? Is that everybody? Okay, cool. Okay. So, everybody's familiar with the being able to inspect an element, going to the console, right? Okay. So, in the JavaScript, what's that? Yeah. So in the latest version of IE or in Chrome or Firefox, you'll have pretty similar stuff. But here in the console, let me open up my website so I don't have the Google stuff running. I don't understand what their stuff is doing. Okay, I'm going to zoom in so stuff makes sense. Okay. Okay, so when you're in the console, everything that you type in is actually being run as JavaScript. So if I do 2 plus 2, it's going to give me the answer to that, so 4. If I do 100 divided by, or actually I should do 1 divided by 3, we have 0.333. Okay, does everybody understand how variables work? Has anybody not really played around with variables yet, or don't know how they work? I'm just going to go over that really quick. It seems like everybody knows this stuff already. So in JavaScript, to create a variable is a var. So I'm going to make third equals first. Okay. So this is from the WAT talk actually. If I take a string, so strings in JavaScript use quotes. Most languages use quotes. So string plus, here, let me do a sentence. I am plus JavaScript. Okay, and you get I am JavaScript. So if I store that in a variable, If I take that string, still got that I am in there. If I do string plus 4, then it takes the number 4 and it makes it into a string and adds them together, concatenates it onto the end of it. So it's kind of like putting the two numbers, putting a string and another string together instead of it being a number. So if you do 4 plus 4, then it's going to do 44. But if you do 4 plus 4, then it's going to do 8. It's actually going to add them. Everybody familiar with this stuff?
What actually happens if you use the number 4 plus so if you start with a number that doesn't follow that rule,
One of them is a string. I think
so
it just doesn't.
Any of them in a string that convert it towards the less than a string.
Yeah. So 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. So it added them
It added the first group.
to make 12, and then it added the 4 on the end of it.
Then you gotta pay attention.
Yeah.
And that's because of order of operations.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So I think if you did, because you could do order of operations in JavaScript, just
So
like
basically it does math before it does.
No, I don't think so. I think it does less. Right. I think if you started with a string and then did the 4 4, then you'd end up with 4 4 4
okay, let's see.
Okay.
4. Now, in this example, that seems a little bit inane, right? Why would you even do this? But instead of you would have all of these things assigned to variables that are created by your application. Eventually, you're going to need to do something with them. So paying attention to how it adds things together, how you can add things together is very important.
Yeah. So like Alan was saying in the first example, it was saying, okay, I've got numbers. Number plus a number, I got 8. 8 plus 4 is 12. Oh, now there's a string. I put that on the end of it. So it's not too smart, but but it's doing what you tell it to. I mean, if you know what you're trying to tell it. In this one, it's saying, okay, I've got a string, and you're trying to add a number to the end of that string. Okay, so I've got 44. Add another number to the end of that. Add another number to the end of that, and you got a string that is 4444.
So just to rescue JavaScript, it's resolute. There are built-in functions. JavaScript just doesn't leave you hanging. It has built-in functions like parse int, parse float.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, if you know something is a string or don't know if it's a string, run it through that filter.
Yeah. So I guess an example of that would be 4 plus. Well, if I made a variable of 4, so var number 4. Make it a string, even though it's not a number. And then if I say 4 plus parse int number 4, and it brings it back to a number. That's what you're talking about, right?
Right.
Yep. And you could do that the other way too. Take a number and make it into a string. What is that? .toString?
Actually, I have it.
So var actual number 4. Yeah. So that's converting a number back into a string. Okay, so all this stuff is kind of useless unless you're. I mean, it's just numbers, right? So let's try to do something with an actual web page. So I created this sample project, and is everybody familiar with CodePen? Have you ever used CodePen before? Okay, so CodePen, if you're not familiar with it, is kind of like JS Fiddle, and it just lets you have work on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in your browser, so you can code right there in your browser, and you got a live updating view on the here.
It's a bad enough to search code dependency first.
That's fine. Yeah, those Google searches say a lot more about you than it does about Google. Okay, so if anybody wants to get to the same code pin that I'm working on, I can open up a chat here, tlk.io/. Okay. Let me adjust my screen resolution. I feel like it's a little big. Okay, so if you go to okay, there we go. If you go to tlk.io/JSLou, this is a chat room that you can, actually anything that you put after the slash on this website, it creates a new chat room for you. It's called Akio. And I've added a link to my code pin in here, where I'm going to. So if anybody wants to follow along. Have you got it? Okay, cool. Okay, so let's think of, I was thinking of some things that are, what we got down there? Hello? Second one. Hey, how you doing? So I was thinking of some things that might be common stuff that you would want to do on a web page that's pretty basic. So I've got this, everybody here familiar with HTML and CSS, like the very basics of HTML and CSS? Okay. So I've got this div here. I'm just calling it box. Basically all the box does is it has this border around the outside. And then inside of here I've got a div, and I just named it, I give it an ID, my div. And I've got this button, then I gave it the ID of my button. And so I've got some stuff here. I'm just going to walk through this one step by step. So let's delete all this. Okay, so with CodePen, you've got these little icons here, so you can expand and contract these different panes. So if I just close everything, I've just got the JavaScript window open here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to be able to use the let me see what I've got over here. I want to be able to hide the text. Okay, so the easiest way to hide the text is I've got a CSS class of hidden, and inside of the CSS class here I've got display none. Is everybody familiar with display none? Okay. So if I just take that class and let's say I do it on body text. Class equal. Okay, so display set to none. There's different options for display. There's inline block, stuff like that, and it has to do with like alignment. And so like if you do block, then like like for instance, like a lot of HTML elements have default settings applied to them. So like a div has display block applied to it. So if you have two divs in there, you put two divs right next to each other in your source code. When they show up on the page, one's going to be on top of the other. And so inline elements appear side by side, and then inline block is kind of similar. But anyway, it display none means it just doesn't display at all. It's just invisible.
Okay.
But it's not invisible in the source. Somebody could still view source and see that there, but it's just not going to be rendered by the browser at all. It's like you can't see it.
It doesn't actually occupy that part of the page.
That's right. It doesn't occupy the space. There's a visibility hidden where it occupies the space, but it doesn't show up.
Yeah.
But display none is how most things are.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but it's still visible in the source code. So if you say something about your boss in there or something, he could still see it he or she could still see
Only
it.
if your boss is smart enough to look for it.
Yeah. We have some bosses like that at Cafe Press.
So essentially, I just want to throw out the distinction that makes it more clear. Display none is actually that's a CSS property.
Uh-huh.
So to get to it, that's why we're drilling down into dot style and then dot display equals none.
What's that?
I was just saying that's part of CSS.
Yeah.
So we have three different things here, and I was just trying to, if that makes it more clear, narrow down which piece is doing what. Display equals none is the CSS, and then we actually have the ability to get access to our CSS from our JavaScript.
Yeah. Or in this case, just a class. But okay. So for example, if I've got the body text, I've got the class applied to it of hidden, and so yeah. That's okay. I want to make sure that you can see it. Is that better? Okay. So if I take hidden off of here, all that text is going to show back up. And if I add hidden, it's going to disappear. Okay, so we want to be able to do that from JavaScript. We want to be able to do that with a button. So
what happens now if you click that button?
what?
What happens now if you click the button?
I don't have the button doing anything right now. I deleted all the JavaScript.
You demonstrate with nothing.
Oh, okay. So button, it doesn't do anything. It gets an outline on it. I could tell you a cool trick, design trick. If I hate these outlines, I always disable those. But yeah, nothing happened. And so if you want to see the code for that, I've got right here. Button ID equals my button, and then the text of the button goes inside here. So I could say click me, and then it changes to click me. So nothing. And so a practical use for this is, say you have on your nav bar or something like that. You want to have it when you hover over the drop-down menu. You want items and like a drop-down list or something to show up, or if you want to have like a pop-up window that's just like a div that floats over everything else. You want to click a button and it pop up like modal box, and then you could type in some stuff in it. Hit send or whatever, and then it disappears, and it's all happening within that web page. You have a new browser window or anything like that. So this is a really practical, if you're just showing it and hiding. And so I've got this. And so JavaScript, let me see if I can. It's a little big, so it's hard to see. Okay, so let's start off by making a variable. So let's call just this box with the text in it. So I'll just make it var text box equals ID. I have to check back and see what the ID for that was. Okay. Okay, so now I've got that in a variable. Okay, so now I want to do the show you how I would hide it JavaScript. So I could do text box set. Or something. What? Does anybody see what I did wrong? No, it worked. It was just CodePen was messing up. Okay, so now I've hidden it from JavaScript, and I could comment out this line, and then it'll pop back up, and I can put that line back, and it'll hide itself again. So what it's doing is it's setting an attribute, and so an attribute is like an ID or a class or a data attribute or different things like that. There's any of those things that you can add to a tag.
JavaScript being run.
Where is it being run on the page?
When is it being run right now?
It's being run as soon as the page loads.
So all of the HTML goes to the browser, all of the CSS gets loaded into the browser.
Yeah.
The page goes through its render cycle and paints the page,
Mm-hmm.
and then the JavaScript is being executed.
Yeah, so
Which changes the page from where it loads initially.
yeah, so if you refresh this, there might be a chance that you'll see that text there for a split second before it hides it, because it's happening after the page is loaded. So I mean, it's asynchronous, so it could happen at the same time. It could happen slightly after. So, and so this isn't really useful, because why wouldn't you just put the class of hidden on the text if you wanted it to hide as soon as you open up the page? If you did that with CSS, then it would be hidden before the page even gets painted, and then nobody's ever going to see it. With this, if you do it with JavaScript, then there's a chance that somebody could see it for a split second and then it would close. But if you want to do it with the button click, this becomes useful. And so what we can do is the next thing that I've got set up here is a event listener. And so I'm going to make a variable for the button also. So
What's an event listener?
So an event listener, like it says, it lists an event. So an event could be a click in this case. If you have if a click happens anywhere on the document, it's gonna catch that, and then it's gonna look and see, did that click happen on a certain element that you specified, and if it did, then it's gonna say do this stuff. And so what I have over here, I have. So before we do this, though, I have to make a variable out of the button. So I'll call it hide button. And we're going to do the same thing, document get element ID. Call it hide button. And I'm going to have to change it up here so that the ID is also hide button. Okay, so now I've got a variable for that too. And then, so the way that the event listener works is it has the first part here is what you're waiting for the event on. And so if you do it on my button, which I actually changed the name to hide button, then if it hears an event on the hide button, then it's going to do something. And so the first the first property here is click, and so that means if you click with your mouse. And then the second one here is a function, and so I don't have a function written yet, so I could say function. Put something in there. I'll put an alert in there. An alert just okay. So when I click it, it's going to pop up a little alert box that says click the button. So does anybody know what the last one here, the false? Does anyone know what that is?
No, it's not a callback. I think it has something to do with the bubble up for other listeners. Yeah.
Okay.
Like whether it bubbles up to other DOM elements or propagates through other elements. I can't remember.
Okay. I've just always used it false there, so I don't know what it actually does.
You could just not include it and it would do default functionality.
Really?
Yeah. So actually, the callback, as Rex was saying, is our function. That's the term for a function that happens asynchronously.
Mm-hmm. For the alert? Yeah. Okay. So this works. We could do we could put whatever we want to happen inside of this event listener. So it would be tempting to just take this code and say the text box set attribute. Let's just stick this down in here, and then the text is going to hide. Oh, it didn't refresh yet. The text is going to hide when I click it, but there's a little bit better way of doing this because this is going to be.
What's wrong with the way we're doing it?
Yeah, what's wrong with the way we're doing it now? Okay, so this function is nested inside of this event listener. But what if we want something? What if we want to be able to hide this text box from somewhere else, or if we want some other condition to hide the text box other than the event listener? Like, what if we want? If we only want the button to hide this, then I guess it's okay. But it's just there are some other cases that we might want to hide that text. So what you can do is you can take that out and put it in a separate function. So you could do function hide text and take this text box attribute, and then you don't actually even have to have the function here. You could just say hide text. And what that's going to do is every time that you click this, it's going to run the hide text function that we've written down here. And the nice thing about that is you can do other stuff with it now. It's not specifically just for that event listener anymore. So,
what are your thoughts on anonymous functions versus specifically declared functions? I mean, for somebody like me with C# background and all that,
I don't know. I guess a lot of this stuff is kind of like an opinion thing. I usually don't like to use anonymous functions unless it's I guess in Node there's like callbacks and stuff, and it's kind of uses those a lot. But if I'm just doing like front-end JavaScript, I usually name my stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Most of the time. It helps me like split things out into little logical pieces.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on your code organization. You're only ever going to use it once for one place. Just call it an inline function. That's what they're there for. That's kind of but if you're trying to organize code for reusability or at least for readability, then I hope that you're splitting it into classes or monads and name your functions within that, and then they're organized. You know where they're at, name the files according to that class name or whatever. So average becomes moot because you've already got names. It's all how you choose to organize. That's an excellent topic. I'll be glad to.
It's a great discussion for not for newbie night.
Maybe next time.
Yeah.
And I would say don't get hung up on whether or not you should or shouldn't use a feature as a whole. I mean, it's basically to sum up what I'm just going off what he said and just summing that up. I wouldn't get too hung up on just whether or not you should use it, whether it's anonymous or not. But when you just know that it's available to you, and don't think about should I use it or should I not use it from the beginning. But if you come to a point where you say I can use it here, I would go at it from that approach.
It was more theoretical.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay, so I'm just adding an ID to that because I'm going to do something with it. Okay, so another cool thing about functions being split into little pieces like this is that you could do cool stuff with them. So if say we want to take the hide text function and we want to change it to, instead of just hiding that text, we want to be able to hide other things with it. But we want to be able to specify different things to hide with it. It doesn't want it. Maybe it's not text. Maybe it's any kind of element on the page. So we could change the name of this to hide element, and then we could pass a parameter to it of an element. And then this text box right here is too specific, so let's change that to element. It could be any element that we pass to it. And then we're going to still add an attribute, a class attribute of hidden to it. And so now this function can be used for lots of stuff. But it's not going to work here because this right here is just going to hide text. So we're going to do hide element.
Why is that, Alex?
Why is what?
Why won't they work as stated? What if it won't work as stated? It won't work if we just pass it.
Because it's asking for a.
Okay.
So we have to give it a parameter now. So oops. Okay. So to make it do the exact same thing, we could just put hide. We could just put text box in there. So then text box is going to become element, and element is going to get the attribute, the class attribute of hidden applied to it every time that you click it. So
one of the powers of JavaScript and cause of frustration, and a lot of people hate on it, is that anything can be assigned as a value to a variable, anything at all. And so in this case, the function can be called the value of the variable. The the document object is the value of the variable. Obviously, strings and whatever else too, right? So at some point, he created a variable to hold the document object body text, and then he used that variable, passed it into a function. Inside that function, it's no longer called the variable name, it's called whatever the argument was to that function. But in your mind, even though those are different variable names, you're sort of imagining it's the same thing being passed from step to step to step. That's the whole point of having variables and variable names. They have variable content on them. They're pointers to other things. But sometimes it's hard to follow the chain, especially when you're first getting started. In your mind, you should think about, it started up there as text box, and it was that big text area, right, that it got. And that's what's being passed along into that hide element function. And then inside that function, it's called element, because you can pass anything into it, and it'll still want to know how to treat it.
So we've made an ambiguous callback. Is that what you would call abstracting?
That is certainly, yeah, you could call that abstracting for sure.
Okay. And for our callback to the actual event listener, Alex, we have to wrap it into a function.
what's that?
We have to wrap our instruction into a function, right?
And right now you have defined an event listener, which is not.
Well, for the callback argument, it's anticipating a function, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we passed it in a what? We passed it in the return value of the function that has been called. Correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're actually calling the function now. So what we want to do is wrap that instruction into a function so that it has what it's looking
line 5 after the comma, type the word function.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because it's actually evaluating
Right.
and calling that function right then and there. You want to wait to call.
Yeah, see? That's why I was messing up. Yeah, see, that's why I'm used to jQuery for all of this stuff.
What about not passing the text box in, just using it as it is as a global variable and not worrying about the parameter?
Well, we just did that. We had that originally.
What do you mean? What do you mean if we did this?
But if you could
I
do
missed it, sorry.
no, you can do that, and then you would take elements out of the function definition and then use that over there. But again, that's a function that then only does one thing. Right?
Yeah.
Whereas now this function could be applied to any element you pass it in. So you could have another button that says hide my first button, and it could use the same function to do all the hiding by being able to assign it that variable.
Well, what I was going to show is
There
the,
you go.
See where you're going.
see, I've got the welcome text up here, and if I change this out, that, then when I click it, it's going to hide that instead.
Right.
I think what I was getting at is the concept of scope.
Sure.
These things are declared.
If you can make something that was an event listener on every element, and if you click it, it did itself.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Can I show you, Alex, just one
What's that?
shorthand way of saying document not get notified?
Yeah, what is it?
Go to the top of your JavaScript, create a new variable. I usually do this globally, but you can use it with the argument. Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to shorten this down. So we're instead of saying document.getElement by ID, we want to call that same built-in function, but without wrapping it, get it down to a simpler syntax. So first we're going to create a variable pointing to our document. So I usually use DOM equals document.
Okay. This is like optimization and not basic stuff though. This is like
This is him trying to play with syntax to make it easier to type.
yeah. But then every single thing in the document that we type afterwards is going to be not in a standard format that people want to be used to. That's the problem with that.
Yeah, if you're teaching basics, you gotta type everything out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready for the dumbed down version. It's cool.
Yeah. Okay. So what do we want to do next? We've got something where if you click a button, it hides that. So let me make a different button. Let me have two separate buttons. So I'll do hide welcome. I'm just going to copy this button here. Hide text. I'm going to do hide welcome button. And so if anybody's wondering why I'm doing the uppercase and lowercase this way, it's called camel case. And the advantage to that is that it lets you see where words start and end without actually having spaces. And it's more of a convention. It's not required. You could do underscores if you wanted to. Or what? Yeah, most people. Yeah, most people like to do camel case. It just makes it easier because you can't have spaces.
You can have
Yeah. Yeah. See, the reason why I like camel case is because I can use it for variables, I can use it for IDs and class names, and I can use the same thing everywhere because you're not allowed to have dashes inside of variable names. And so I just like to keep one thing that I use everywhere.
And some frameworks you'll need to use that for instance, Angular directives. Because
Okay, so I've got two buttons. I've got one to hide the welcome, one to hide the text. Neither of them work because I changed the IDs on them. So I'm going to go back into JavaScript here. And then we've got this event listener. Let's make a copy of that. Okay, and then one of them, we've got a hide. We got to make a hide welcome button. Call it hide welcome button. Okay, and then let's copy this down to here. And then that's good. Ooh. Is the Mac okay?
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay, good.
We'll see. She'll have 6 years.
If not, it's if you got all these people as witnesses that it's an excuse to get a new one.
Not a good time.
Okay, so hide welcome button. When you click it, it's going to run the hide element function on the element welcome. And welcome is defined up here as get element by ID welcome. And so when I click this, it's going to hide that. Okay, but the other one still isn't going to work. So we need to, here, copy this. So instead of hide welcome button, this one is going to be hide, what did I call it? Did I call it text button? Yeah, hide text button. So copy that ID. Hide text button, and the ID was hide text button. And this is hide text button, and then what it's going to hide is the text box. When I click that, it hides that. When I click that, it hides that. And so now the only way to get this stuff back is to refresh the page. And so that's not really convenient. So what we should probably do is every time you click one of these buttons, if you click it again, it brings the stuff back. And so let's see what the easiest way to do that would be. So I'm already thinking of another way to do it, but what we could do is we could make another function. We've got hide element already. We could do unhide element or show element. Show element. And then that's going to, I don't have jQuery, so set attribute class to blank. Okay. So,
What do you mean by you don't have jQuery?
I don't have jQuery, so I can't do multiple, I can't tell it to remove
Yeah,
welcome. I can't tell it to remove hidden.
It's kind of a blunt way of
Yeah.
doing it. You're clearing out the whole class and renaming.
Yeah. Not a blunt, like an Alan Blunt way to do it.
Not an album way.
So what would be a way that we can say, okay, you've clicked this button and you've hidden the welcome text. You click the button again. I want it to run a different function. For the first time you click it, it's going to hide the element. Or if the element is already shown, it's going to hide it. If it's not shown, it's going to unhide it. What would be a way to do a different function depending on if you have something hidden or not?
Can you check what if class is on an element?
Yeah, can we do that? Okay. Okay, so when do you want to do that? Okay. So on click we've got a function. So let's just do it for the welcome first. So inside of this function, we're running this hide element. So before we do the hide element, we want to check to see if the element's hidden, right? Okay. So how do we do that?
Well, that's what makes a program.
There are probably a lot of ways to do this, right?
And
Okay.
if you're abstracting out a function for hide element and show element, you should abstract out a function for toggle element as well as potentially for a get class of element. So that's pretty self-evident. You don't necessarily need a function for that.
Yeah. Okay, so how do we get the class of element with vanilla JavaScript?
If you're setting it with set attribute, you can probably get it with get attribute.
Okay.
Not the second part.
Okay, so what I would probably do is take this, bring this up here.
When you do a click, the thing that gets passed into the argument is the event.
Okay. Got
You
it.
don't need it. Probably. Yes.
Okay, so instead of having this, let's just log this to the console. So like I did the alert before, one way of doing it. You could you can show a message. A nicer way is to do a console log. So it's console log, and then you could put something in there. So let's say current class equals current class this, and then we'll log current class. And I like to say what it was right there so that you have an idea of what you're logging. And since it's a string, you have to, if you're going to take a variable, you have to either put a plus or a comma in between these. The comma is kind of nice because it'll add the space for you. But if you don't want to use the comma, you could do space.
The comma is actually nice because you can put objects together and it doesn't force them all to be strings.
Yeah, it's like the only way to log a object, right? Or it's a better if you want to have a string in front of it, right?
There's actually a console.dir.
Dot what?
Dir, D-I-R,
Oh.
which is the best way to look at an object if you're only doing the object. Is that available in the browser?
Okay, so I'm going to open up the console, and I'm going to do that while I'm clicking the button. And so current class null. So I did something wrong. Or it has no class. Never mind. I did something right. So it's coming back with null. Okay.
We have to, so now we're coming into implication in our programming, which is that our HTML has to change.
What do you mean the HTML has to change?
They may have to change. We may have to detect, well, we could just detect if it has the hidden class.
Yeah, all we care about is if it equals hidden, and otherwise it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we would make a function called isHidden, and it would check the current class, and if that was equal to hidden, then it returns true, and otherwise it returns false, and then we use that function.
So I'm going to do the if statement right here instead of making a separate function, and we can break it out into a function later. So if current class equals triple equals, if it's exactly the word hidden, then do something. Okay. Else do something else, right? So if it's already hidden, then we want to do the show element function. If it's not already hidden, we want to hide element. Do the hide element function. Share that out. Cool, it works. Yep, it's exactly like a toggle.
Oh, we just did the one.
Yeah, so this is kind of complicated, and this is stuff. Did everybody get what's going on? If anybody has any questions, it's not a big deal. This is beginner time, and so I want to make sure that I'm not doing anything that's confusing. This stuff is way easier with jQuery. I could get this down to like nothing with jQuery, but this is showing you all the cool stuff that jQuery is doing. Is anybody interested in seeing the exact same thing but with jQuery? Just to see what the difference is? Anybody interested in that, or do you want to keep going with vanilla JavaScript? Nobody has any of.
Does anyone want this house to keep talking?
I say carry on with JavaScript.
Okay. Yeah, does anybody want me to stop talking? Just kidding. Okay. Yeah. Hey, you're just lucky I don't have my Nerf with me. Okay. So we did that for the first button. So what's a way that we can make this simpler? Like this is I mean, we could probably break this down to I mean, this seems pretty complicated.
It seems a little complicated for just showing height.
Yeah.
If it was something more complex, it might be
Yeah. but we also built it in a way that's easy to do other stuff. Okay, so got that.
But we still don't have one for the high tech.
Yeah, we could copy the same stuff. Just take what's in here, copy that down into this.
Well, how about this regroup function? What do we do with the other?
Yeah, so we're talking about the check to see if it has a class.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we make a function? Function. What should we call it? Toggle visibility. Okay. Toggle display. Yeah, because it's doing the hidden class thing. Okay, so we want to have an element. What else does it need? Does it need anything else? Okay. Whether you're hiding or showing it, the toggle's going to handle that. So the first thing it'll do is it'll check yep, all this stuff here. And then this will be elements, current class hidden element, element. Okay. So now we got like 3 functions here that can do the same stuff. And then all we have to do inside of these is a toggle display. And then I'll put one here also, toggle display. And then the element for this one is going to be welcome. Element for this one is going to be, what was it called again? Text box. Okay. That still work? Cool. Does everybody get what was going on here? So now we got a reusable part that we can add this toggle display to any button or any element. So, but we still have to add an event listener.
Maybe a cleaner way of doing it. Maybe a little more concise instead of calling the show element. Just literally have that statement.
That's true.
So adding the
If
function,
we assume that we're only ever going to be toggle.
yeah, you could do that. Since these are like one-line functions too. Yeah.
That's kind of what
Since they're one-line functions right now, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
But the beauty of having them abstracted out like that is that you could, a month from now, decide that you didn't like toggling based on that class name, and you instead wanted to toggle based on whatever else. And it might be beneficial to keep them abstracted. But your argument's a great one for having it organized that way right now.
Yeah.
Typically, lab work is sort of that way.
I typically start that way too, and now I hate myself for it.
Sometimes it hurts you.
Abstract to smaller functions any chance I get. So, I can certainly argue either side of that.
So what if we wanted to bring the event listener into this whole function thing so that we don't have to have a separate what if we said, I just want to take this element and add an event listener that checks if you click it and toggle something. We could even put that in a function too. So we could say function toggle button. And then for toggle button, we can make it take in a button and an element. And so the button is what you click to toggle the element, show and hide. And then you could add the event listener into there. Toggle element. And you click button.
So you're cleaning up your.
Playing with variables right now.
this way.
Yeah, if we were using jQuery or something that made it easier to serialize and iterate, we are all interested now. So bind the button to the thing that wants to toggle inside the HTML with an extra attribute, and then your JavaScript doesn't care about any actual values. All it does is parse all the attributes and assign the things together when it makes it functional.
Okay. It should still work. Yep. Cool. So now if we add a new button, it'll be really easy to tell it, okay, this button is a toggle button, and you put the name of the ID of the button, or well, actually, you could do that too, but I'm not going to do that right now. And then what it's going to toggle is the second attribute here. So that makes it a little bit easier. Okay. What do you want to do next? What do people want to try next? What's something that you've wanted to do with JavaScript that's kind of along these lines that...
Okay, so along these lines, so since we're making out our abstracted functions, and one of the reasons why people do that is because it shortens syntax, right?
Uh-huh.
So instead of saying style.display equals none, we just have something that says, or equals hidden, we just have something that says hide. Right?
Yeah.
Hide. So off of that, I feel like we can do the same thing for get element by ID without actually having to create a function, or we could create a function.
Okay.
If we just want to look at that.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I
Let's
was
do
going
it.
to say create, first of all, just create a variable called by ID. So we're going to shorten it from get element by ID to just by ID. So create a variable.
What is it you're having him do here?
He's trying to shorten the document.get
just like
element by
we
ID.
just like we shortened
Syntax.
Oh, okay, you're just trying to make the syntax easier.
Make the syntax shorter.
Before you get too far into that though, and I want to see this, I really like his question because it addresses something that I deal with. I feel like what we're going over here is probably underneath a lot of you. And I haven't done a lot of JavaScript coding, and I've talked about this with Alex and other people before. I've gone through Code Academy classes. I totally understand what's happening here. I've done exercises like this, but I've never found anything that really like motivates me to want to code. And so I really like his question about, you know, like what would you like to do with JavaScript? Because this is a question I've never been able to answer for myself. And I'd like to, you know, like I'd like to be involved with it. So I'm really curious as to like what kind of things motivate those of you who do code a lot to do it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good question.
But please, I totally do want to see this. Anything that can make it faster and easier is cool.
Well, so as far as abstracting, as he said, which I forget your name.
John.
As John said, he will typically go for like the shortest way possible, and then if he needs to abstract and do it later. I've been in that same party before, but I've looked at code that people have done where they do abstract, like a lot of things, and I've seen the benefit of that too. So there's a lot of different parties that go with programming. There's really no perfect standard. People have different reasons that they do it for. Some people are more coming off of traditional languages, and you can tell. We can tell people that started learning JavaScript versus people that started learning C or C++, and then trying to make JavaScript do that.
Oh yeah, the very first thing I learned about coding was that if I asked 3 different people which like the best path of self-education coding, they would be 3 like angry different answers. Like, those other 2 guys are stupid. Don't do C#, do this or. So that's the first thing I learned is that everybody has their own opinion on which is the most effective method.
I felt like I was in the exact same position. I decided I wanted to go. I had done some programming over the years, and I wanted to get back to it, you know, but I didn't know where to begin. You go online, and everyone tells you something different.
Sure.
And I decided, well, it's the general consensus of JavaScript. So I started learning JavaScript, and I loved it because I love following the logic. And I loved, the learning of it was like the means unto the, or the end unto the means. Right. Just a break apart the riddle. And then when I felt like I knew it really well, I was like, well, what the hell do I do with it now? Right? Does it do anything? I made a rock, paper, scissors game.
Right. I can make
blackjack game. I was like, I didn't have a reason to be doing this. Now, when I got into web development, suddenly I felt like, and I had done blog for years, and I had done like web related things, stuff like that, where I wanted to go anyway. When I got into that, I forgot about JavaScript. I just got into that. Constructing sites and trying to make them work the way I wanted them to work, And then JavaScript seemed to make more sense to me because now I felt like a creator again. Now I'm trying to create something that does a specific thing that looks a certain way. And then suddenly I need not just I might use JavaScript here. I mean, to do some things I want to do, I had to use Java or the best programming language trying to do what I wanted to do was JavaScript. So somebody there really inherent need for it. And it's it's like learning Node now, where it's you also go to the backend looking JavaScript. It's kind of blowing my mind.
I made one of those.
It's all because the end result. It's all because I want to make a site that works better, that works faster, that does these things that I want to do, not because I just end up programming in and of itself.
But it's not right job that requires that tool. The right job that require that tool.
Exactly, and that's all they are. They're just a bunch of tools, and you'll use. But and it's you may find something else you like better. You may not want to. I think Ruby also is really good, pretty cool programming language. But it's just I hear what you're saying. It's like you kind of. It really helps a lot. I think if you have it in mind, whether it's creating games or creating, things for a browser. To have something to apply it to suddenly gives you a greater justification and a motivation behind doing this.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what's been like. But yeah, there's JavaScript all there, there's .NET guys. Both of the other guys in the I don't know, you're actually a lot nicer than him.
Oh, well, that's good at least.
Well, it's like also like I know I have like a side interest in animation. It seems like some really cool stuff going out there, like browser animations. Amazing. There's so many other
What's that?
avenues to go with it.
I haven't shown it.
Or find something that is out there that's really big.
That's like I said, that's why I liked Alex's question, because I'm like anxious to hear people go, well, why don't we try doing this with it? Because I never had like that suggestion. And I figure, being in a group of people that have more experience than I do, hopefully that's the way inspiration.
Well, I think, with JavaScript too, because I'm not a heavy programmer. I do some programming, but the more I get into JavaScript, the more I see it longhand, it just reinforces the basic concepts, of how these languages work. But I'm, at a point now where I'm building stuff that I just don't have time to spend writing out these longhand functions like I used to. So jQuery really does make it much easier later on. All that code up there, if you do a jQuery, it's like a line. It's really amazing. But again, having that understanding behind why those jQuery functions are doing that's how.
Yeah, no, that's also good.
So this is a game that Eric wrote. It's all completely in JavaScript. So when you wonder what JavaScript can do, and you think about it as a supporting language, you just write one page. It's not that way. You're passing it.
So, Ben was saying you Ruby for long too. Especially Ruby on Rails. You can call into other languages in Canada. Or as his name is mentioning, you can offline now. Which is something that I had to consider. And the number of things you can do with it is wrong. Makes it feel
I think the reason that too broad, too many options. Just tell me 3 things I can do. I'll pick one of those. We're gonna need to.
framework build it.
I'm friends with Alex.
That's a good question. Hold on.
It looks like that was one of the most fun ones.
Let me show you how that works. What? Okay, if you hit F2, then you can paint blocks. Yeah, they're live. It's a level editor built in. Debug mode does the debug mode shows you what you've touched, so you know what's going to get blown up. If you hold down Shift, you can delete these. I can go over here. Yeah, it console log. You hit I think it's X, and then it console logs it, and then you copy out that JSON and paste it into your level. So, but if I exit this level and come back, that's gone. But if I start editing it on here, I can add blocks. I can use these to, like, if I want to make the goal right here, or if I want to change where the skull is at. Yep. Starting place, hit X, or to restart, and then you're level over. No. But yeah, we built that in. There's blocks that didn't make it into the final too, but let's see, where are they? Some gray. But yeah, you just make tons of levels, and if you get to the end of a level and you hit, I think it's page up or page down. If you hit page up and you're at the end of the last level, then you can add a new level on the end of it, and it just keeps adding levels. And you can draw new levels. Oh. Yeah, so this is something you could do in the browser with JavaScript. It's more on the complicated side, though.
Is that just JavaScript?
It's just JavaScript, HTML, and CSS.
If you use jQuery, it's like,
He's using 2 lines.
Yeah, if you use jQuery, that whole game's like a line and a half. It's real easy. No, I'm just kidding.
Canvas is more hard.
Back in that.
Yeah. No, I haven't used it either. Alex is the frontiers on that.
I don't know, I haven't done most of it. I just do the art for the games. But the he is in St. Louis. Not looking at animals this time, no. Looking at code. Yeah, but the whole game is not the right file. Hold on. That's gonna take forever to load. Anyway, this is
When does Nintendo DS make it?
what?
When does Nintendo make Canvas?
Oh, that's an interesting. When does Nintendo make that game, or when do you?
When can you like put these games on PSP or?
A Wii U. They came out with the Nintendo Web Framework, and it uses Canvas. It uses HTML5 like anything you want. So there's a Nintendo Web Framework. Yeah, we got the email back from them too. But we could become a whatever the developer. But yeah, you can use Unity or HTML5, and so that's kind of cool. And one of their like launch partners for this is Impact, which is the game engine that we're kind of quietly making a clone of.
That's what Splat is.
No, Splat. I mean, Splat is like similar to Impact. We don't actually know what Impact, like what their actual stuff does because they make you pay $100 to use it, and so we don't have it, so we can't use it. But we're making our stuff compatible with theirs and open source. So I like the guy that made Impact though a lot, so I don't want to piss him off.
How compatible with them? Like, are you copying their API docs?
No, but they have a thing, an exporter for iOS called Ejecta, and we made ours compatible with that. So we didn't make any changes to Ejecta. We just made the Splat engine work with it. So it could be pretty close. It could be way off and just work in the Ejecta stuff. I don't know, because nobody has a copy of Impact without paying for it. But actually, Travis has Impact. He emailed them and got a free copy. But yeah, the guy that made it's pretty cool. But yeah, so anything else? Anybody have any ideas of cool stuff to do? Accounting, like a timer to count? Okay. Well, let's start a new code pin. Okay, so let's start a stopwatch. Okay, cool. A stopwatch. Building a stopwatch.
Are we allowed to use a library?
No. He said no.
Oh man.
Okay, you're gonna have to help me because I always get these. I always get the set interval and set timeout and stuff mixed up. Okay, so set interval. What's the basic
Why
thing
are
for?
we doing? Oh, we're doing a stopwatch.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do set interval one.
Okay.
I would do event handler to listen to the creation of the event, and then
What's the creation of the event?
I assume clicking a button.
Okay, got it. So we need a button. So let's have a span ID time. Yeah. Whatever. And then a button. ID start. Stop. That. Okay, that's the basics, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just CSS. Just do super lame break tag. Okay.
You don't need the self-closing things in HTML5 anymore.
For what?
The ERs don't have to self-close in HTML5.
Oh, some person told me to do that. Well, nobody should ever use break tags. So how about we just do this the right way? I don't know. I'll do it super easy. Divs are auto block. So done. Okay. And this looks super ugly. Can I just fix one thing real quick?
No. I knew it. Oh man.
Oh, where's my other quote?
Actually, fork your first code, then immediately change it to
Comic Sans?
Okay, we're good now. Okay, now what?
It's 50% of our layout.
Yeah, it is. Okay, now what?
So
No more CSS.
expand your JavaScript, make your event handler for your button.
Okay, what?
Make the event handler for your button.
Okay.
When you click it, something happens.
Bar start.
Can we do this with jQuery just so it goes faster?
Can we do it with jQuery or no? Okay, let's do it jQuery way. Oh, they had jQuery the whole time. We lied. Or
I just don't remember
so this $ basically does all the document by ID stuff, or class name, or whatever else. Query selector. Okay, what's next?
So button dot on. Argument click. That's an option. Alright, and then you need some way to know whether or not the timer is already started, right?
Okay. Should we use a
I would do
Boolean or something for that? No.
I would use $, open paren, this data.
Does everybody know what this refers to?
Yes.
Which can be millions of different things.
In this case, what is the this? What is this right here?
It's the element.
Bill, what is the this referring to in this?
this, but
How would he know?
He's done all of the Code Academy things. You have such little faith in your friend.
I have no faith in you.
You almost fell into the
He got it right. It was this. It's the button. Good job, Bill. Yep. This is this.
So this is actually pent string pound start stop. It's not included with the $, right? It's not an actual object. Or is it an object?
This is an object, but
This is this.
No. Hold on. It is currently, but it really isn't always. Like, so here's the deal. When you define an on event handler in jQuery, that function can get the event object, which is the event handler, which has a whole bunch of extra crap on, including a current target and a current because you're in jQuery. So you can skip looking at that and do a $ this inside the callback for the handler, and it references the object that was, or if the trigger event was something else, the object that triggered the event. But if you don't wrap it in the $, this refers to something.
So if you wrap it in the $, then jQuery is smart enough to know.
jQuery is smart enough to find.
I know what this guy means.
That's right. I think without it,
That's why I hate jQuery.
that's why I hate JavaScript, because that shit's like totally not, you have to figure out how it's going to work. But at least they have a documentation for there. Yeah, I would have Yeah, it's shit. Better than wow. But this is going to be much harder to call out what should be typed in without Alex up there.
hey dude, next name you should, I don't know, close a bracket or something.
That's right.
So we're still in a race, right? Get this fast. He is invisible friend. Okay, that's better than invisible fruit, probably. State equal to. Okay. So we can wrap all this and if. So data is a crazy extra stash of information, right? So you can put anything you want in data. Yeah, you got booted off the island, dude.
You're touching my laptop and I've been sick.
You're getting sick?
No, I've been sick.
Oh,
I'm just fair warning.
I'm out of here.
Now this is already starting to get ugly.
Did you already do it?
No.
Okay, good.
See how some stuff is red?
Data state. What happened here?
So data is just the actions, right? So you can stash whatever you want to. Folded button or whatever it is that we're dealing with. We've stashed a state or status, and then you can assign whatever you want to. So just the same way we were checking for class names before, and data is a cleaner way. Why did you do data state there? You don't need it up there.
You're right. Excuse me.
So basically, on line 5, before the close parameter, I would do a comma. No, sorry, before the close parameter, before the run. You set the value of state to.
Oh yeah, one more time. Sorry.
Set the value of state to stop inside that data call. Sure. And then remove the double equals to the left of it. And then remove the close paren.
Got it. Okay, I see what you're doing. You're setting it.
Yeah, but that's not how it works. Then stop is the second argument in the function to data.
Oh, I get you. Okay.
Data is a getter and a setter. Right, and so then, just for symmetry's sake, copy line 5 to line 7, change the value to run. So at this point, we will toggle the value whenever we click it. We'll never see the value because it's in the hidden state. So since we want to unhide it, on line 5, when we can change the text to being start on line 8. With jQuery, you can do changing the object, so you don't have to keep doing the .NET line every line. You know how to do that?
Yeah.
All right. It has to be TEXT, not TXT.
Yeah, that's right.
So we got our toggle there. Now, when we start it, which is on line 7, it looks like, after line 7, we actually need to do something. So we can basically get a new timestamp in JavaScript. We do that by instantiating a new date object onto a variable name.
Okay.
And then getting the get time off of that new object. And that gives us a Unix timestamp. We don't even have to get the Unix timestamp. We could just keep the data object around.
Okay. Should I make that a global variable, or should I just start it right here?
I would put it in data.
You would put it in data?
I like keeping everything contained within whatever context we have it.
Okay.
We've already got the object there. The syntax, if you're going to chain a whole bunch of stuff to a selector, usually is start a new line starting with dot under the this. So, yeah, and then I would also do the same thing with the data. So it's consistent. All right, and so now instead of having the semicolon at the end there, you can start a new line with a dot. Data, timer, or yeah, big object, or whatever you call it. New space D with a capital D, and I think that's it. So we've now created a new data object.
Do I need that?
I don't know if you need it, but I always put it in there.
Okay.
And every time we start it, we will create a new data object. We don't really need to kill it on the close. Now we need something that updates that time frame for us, right? And this is where a reactive framework comes in handy.
How'd you do that?
What?
How'd you do that?
Oh.
Cursors?
You could do that in Sublime Text, and I copied it for CodePen. You just hold down Shift, or hold down on the Mac command on Windows Control while you're clicking, and then you could.
So now the last bit would be to actually update the count of what the time is, which again, if you're using the reactive framework, would be ridiculous. Since we're not, now maybe is where we would do set interval.
Yeah.
The set interval happens in.
Or request animation frame.
All right. I would love to see how you would do it with that. Go for it.
Okay.
Keep going, I really enjoyed it. See all of you.
Good to see you come back. We'll be talking about persistent storage at the next meeting, I promise.
And you can talk about it.
Yeah,
over here.
I need to listen.
Okay, hold on. Let me see where I did it in my project.
What's the requirements of the stopwatch?
But it ticks.
So we click the button, and the time goes up until we stop. Do a set interval and update the date. Okay. 1,000 millisecond.
Here we go.
So what's our date object? Do we have to create a new date object every time?
Compare against it.
Yeah, that was me cheating. You're not supposed to see that part.
I mean, you could also iterate a tick. So you could rely on set interval.
The second interval.
Yeah, so request animation frame is like a recursive function. It runs a function that you give it, and then inside the function you give it, it runs itself again to run the function that you give it, and then it keeps going. And request animation frame, it runs the function one per frame that the browser is rendering, which is 60 frames per second. And so it's like a flipbook. It's just refreshing the browser, refreshing.
I remember the recursive function.
Yeah, basically the only reason why you need to do that is so that it runs itself again. It keeps running itself over and over. So it's doing that right now. And if I tell it to do something ridiculous, let me save first before I do something ridiculous. I could say inside of here, what did I call it? Time dot text time dot text equals time dot text plus 1. Will that work?
Oh, you function text, Alex.
What's that?
The function text, you can call it.
Oh.
Whoa.
So this is where you have to use force handling.
Yeah.
So it'd be much easier, I think, just to.
See ya. So yeah, that's good.
Why can't you just call update instead of calling request animation frame update first time?
It's a good question.
Now, request animation frame, is that built into jQuery?
No, it's a browser thing.
It's a browser.
Yeah, it's an everywhere thing. 60 frames per second, 60 times per second. It syncs with the browser's drawing.
Okay, so it's more lockstep, whereas set interval is just going to be sort of best guess at
Yeah. Well, this is what we use for games. That's the only reason why I know about it. There's and if you're actually going to use it in production, I would suggest there's a request animation frame that Paul Irish, a polyfill that he made, and you copy this and put it in your project, and it makes everything work smoothly across all the browsers. And I don't know exactly everything that it works, but you could look at it, and it just works really well. And he's a smart guy, so you just do it.
When would you generally use it?
We use it for the update function, and we use it for in the games, like to draw 60 times per second, so you get your game running 60 frames per second.
For any other instances.
A stopwatch. Well, I don't know. I mean, you could. It's usually used for animation. Like you could. I mean, it's used a lot with Canvas to make like a draw loop, because Canvas is a lot like when you're drawing in real life. Everything that you draw on a piece of paper, you have to erase it before you can draw something else. So if you draw a circle on a piece of paper, and then you draw another circle on a piece of paper, you have two circles. But really, if you wanted movement, you would have to draw that circle, erase it, draw that circle, erase it, draw that circle, erase it, or have separate pieces of paper. But Canvas works like one piece of paper. You have to keep drawing and erasing. So what you do with set interval, or more recently with the request animation frame, is run the draw erase every frame, every one of the 60 frames per second. So it's constantly drawing and erasing, and that's how you can make things look like they're moving. So
this is not a very good stopwatch because.
No, I know. I was waiting for you.
It's a hell of a counter.
It is a hell of a counter.
Yeah.
It's also unstoppable.
Yes, it's a great stopwatch.
All right. So instead of simply iterating a count, you tie it back to the timer that was instantiated earlier.
Okay. Yeah, we need that date. We need the time from it, right?
Yeah. So that's dot get time.
Okay. So where should I put that?
Put a plus in front of you. If you want to cheat.
What?
Put a plus in front of you because it will course it.
And no cheating for the dumb
I didn't know that.
Yeah, then you could also take out the parentheses.
Like this?
And that gives you an integer back.
It courses it to.
That's great.
Okay, but if you weren't going to do it the super smart way, how would you do it?
That's one of those WAT things.
Right, because that's probably the way I'll. So,
Well, if you're using jQuery, I mean, you just say make stopwatch.
Well, you have
And
that in a dollar sign, dude.
Oh yeah. There. Make stopwatch. So, yep, done.
Okay, so your update loop is self-referencing, which is great. Basically,
And scary.
that's going to take care of all of the get it to show up all the time. Then you just need that update function to do something. In this case, I would recommend what it does is it gets the button object, the button variable, and it does dot timer to get the stop time or start time or start date object.
What did we call it again?
$$ at this point. Well, no, maybe the
No.
this time we're going to reset to 0 every time you stop, or can you start and stop?
that is something that we will have to decide. That's a feature specification, but it's not here. I don't know what we're doing there.
Timer? I'm making a thing for the timer, so I don't have to do the $sign every time.
Okay.
Is it called timer?
Yeah.
Time.
All right, so in the update function, grab your button, and then dot data for the timer. Okay, so that returns you the date object that we set when we first click the start button.
Okay.
And since you're here and JavaScript lets you just change everything, you can do a dot get and then capital T on the word time. And so that ends up with a timestamp, a Unix epoch to milliseconds. So that gives you a big ass number, right? So that's your start time.
So if everybody doesn't know what a Unix epoch is, because that sounds crazy, it's somebody had the idea that the universe started in 1979, and they've
1970.
1970. That's right. No, on the Mac it's 1979.
Easier.
No, if you like reset if your clock battery goes out in your Mac, it starts at 1979. I don't know why, but it's 1970 for the Unix one. And so January 1st, 1970 to now has a certain amount of milliseconds, and that's how we can like tell our time with code. I guess, is it in every language or is it just in JavaScript? It's pretty much every language, right? And so if you ever get the time, a lot of languages have stuff to smooth this over and make it a little nicer and give you like an actual friendly time, but JavaScript has kind of a crude way of doing it where it just gives you this long number that equals, here I could show you.
JavaScript made them worse.
Yep.
I'm gonna blow up your console log. Oh no, it's not worth calling itself. You're good.
I need to pull it out of there. Okay, so that's going to do it one time. And, what? Oh, is it already open? It's not going to work?
Oh, no.
Because we're just calling the log function before we.
Oh, you're right. Because we'll never substantiate your data object when that gets called. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Anyway, I could do it in the console.
Okay, so that gives us one big integer, right? All right.
That was the time of initiation. What's the term for that?
Start epoch.
There we go. So this is the number of milliseconds since January 1st, 1970.
Hey, you can copy that thing that you just typed right above it.
Uh-huh.
Leave that exact same thing in our code.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so what we got there is the start time. We also need the stop time, which is what is in the clipboard right now. You should take it above the start time that we got. Mm-hmm.
Do I need to create that variable on every time of the update?
Yes, you do.
Oh, I do?
You don't need to create a variable for it, but you need to do
We need a
what's in the
variable.
clipboard.
We need a variable for the delta because we're subtracting a time in milliseconds from a time in milliseconds.
Yeah, so the variable name is delta. 4 milliseconds. That's all that makes more sense. Right. So on the far right hand side, minus sign. Right? And then get rid of the semicolon. So we are going to take the current epoch minus the start time epoch. And that will tell us how many seconds have passed since then. Or actually, in this case, how many milliseconds. We got one big ass number minus another big ass number. What's the difference?
We're getting a delta in milliseconds.
Delta and milliseconds.
Which we need to convert to seconds and then convert it to animation frame.
No, we don't need to convert it to animation frame. You'll just update it with itself all over the place.
Yeah.
Question.
Yes.
Why would you not just set a start time of 0?
And then how would you update it?
Oh, okay. You're talking about updating the what you're visually seeing.
Yeah.
Because he's
I'm relying on the system clock to keep track of time.
the start time isn't 0. The start time is in milliseconds.
What is it, times 100?
No, divide
by 100?
1,000.
Divide by 1,000.
Right, and then you need to wrap that in a math dot
Okay.
Oh,
or
is this,
math dot floor, really.
is this because you're not putting anything in to increment the time?
We are currently implementing the time.
But I mean, by utilizing the system block?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, as opposed to by putting in some math.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay.
If we rely on set interval,
Uh-huh.
or if we rely on this whatever request time frame, it's not based on the system time or an actual wall clock. It's based on however often that thing updates.
Oh,
Which
right,
is supposed
right,
to be based on a wall clock. It isn't always.
Okay, it's going to count as fast as.
It's going to count.
Yeah, okay.
Whereas this is comparing
To
time,
an
the system
actual
time.
Let's show what happens if you don't do math floor first, okay?
All right.
Okay, because I want people to understand, like, know what Math4 does.
And then finally, so we've got our delta seconds.
I've got to put it in the
Timer.
timer div, or in the timer. Yeah, it's a div.
But we have to detect the state first.
We don't need to detect the state. It just updates forever.
And then you can delete where it says it's running or not. It's here.
Sure. All right, start it up.
It should be started.
No, not until you click the button.
There's nothing telling it to. Wait, what?
We have to call update.
It's updates being called up above.
But it's being called every single time. Okay, what's wrong?
Look at the console.
Yep.
Sweet.
Get time.
Oh,
But we also have a
well, hold on. Figure that out because that might not still be the case. So update's trying to get the time from the timer, no matter whether it exists.
Right. So we need to call an update when it's appropriate to call it.
Start the whole thing when it starts up here.
That's a good idea.
There we go.
This is why we have to detect state though, because update we could potentially call update like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
So stop doesn't stop it, but stop does, or start will then restart it, which is good. So now if we want to stop to actually stop it, we have to either tell update to not self-reference, or within update detect state, which is probably the better choice. Which is really easy to get because it's on data state.
What'd you say? Date?
State? Isn't
State.
it called state? I think it's running.
So I have a question. Is that the best place for us to put it there, or do we want to wrap the function?
I think this is best place. We were just trying to hack something out.
It's still not working. We're still, it didn't fix it because we're still calling update 4 or 5 times. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, I don't understand.
We're still calling update multiple times. So checking the state actually didn't fix it.
Why not?
Because the state was relevant, we're still calling update. So if we call update one time and it says, okay, what's my state? My state's good, so it runs. And then we call update again and it's like, what's my state? Well, my state's good, so it runs.
Well, that's the whole point. That's how this update approach is supposed to work. It's not a set interval. It's a call this all of the fucking time.
No, I know, but we're calling, we have multiple request animation frames going into one site. We have 2 instances of request animation frame calling update. And it just builds on itself every time we call. You could, if you look to your like resource management and see that we're going to be perpetually adding on to.
Is request animation frame like set interval? So you start a watcher and it goes forever?
Well, I believe so. I mean, that's what I'm seeing.
Alex, that was a question for you, Mr. Formatter.
What happened?
Does start animation frame go on forever like a set interval?
Yes.
So every time we call set animation frame, we're setting a new interval watcher? All right, so yeah, this is poorly written.
All we have to do is once update has been called one time. You
Log
log
just
out.
No. Check this out. All you have to do is go down to where you're currently calling set whatever. Just remove it and call update.
I don't understand.
Update can call itself forever.
Yeah.
I just
As long as we're using system clock, we don't need to keep timing, so there's no use for having meetings. So he's right, just get rid of the window.
Yeah, on line 27.
It's just a hard loop. It won't really matter.
Or if you want to be a little bit more efficient, you can call it wrap within a set timeout.
But we're still running into the same issue.
No,
Yeah, we will, because every time we hit that button, we have update over.
Oh, yeah, it's starting over every time.
Over and over again. Then we stop it and it keeps going.
but it doesn't keep going. Because the state is no longer running, so it stops calling itself.
Before the problem was that there were multiple request animations running. Power on. Okay. User experience says that's not real.
Right.
Yep. Let's see. You do hamsters and code, you gotta post a link to their code pen here, so we know we'll play around with it.
Sure.
All right. Wow.
Bye, code level people.
Let's turn it up.
Cool. Yeah, what's next?
Can we get rid of the decimals?
Yeah. I thought this did get rid of the decimals. Nope, it just gets rid of everything.
Make sure my laptop still works.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm gonna think I get a solid state drive. If I heard anything, that's probably what I heard.
You know what? I could have gone through that button and definitely sped things up.
Well, it's 6 years old. I'm making those years ago. CD, but super drive now. I only own one Mac ever. It was someone gave me 7 or 8 years ago because they were upgrading. It was awesome. When I got
Cool. Well, I'm about to take some NyQuil.
It breaks glass.
Your nose off. Thanks for having lights for me.
No problem. Yeah, I hope it makes sense. Everybody seemed to already know the stuff I was talking about.